Hello everyone, my name is Havian and today I'm going to be showing you Mitsurugi Kamui Hikae to help you decide if this is a game that you should play. Now this is a game that is on the PC at the moment, but it is now been brought over to the PlayStation 4 and that is the version that I'm going to be showing you today. This is a game that is similar to games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, but it's a very simplified version of it. You don't expect to get the combo depth that we'd get from those games. But I guess this is a game for those people that just want a quick combo fix. So I'm going to show you what this game's all about, what you can do in there, and then I'll leave you to decide if this is a game for you. So first things first, I'll show you the options. So you got sound, it's going to be really simple, you just turn on the different volumes. And for controller, it's only really options for you to mess with the camera settings and vibration. When you complete the game, you do have access to more costumes, but you will find there are other costumes you can unlock as you get further into the game. At the moment, I've only got 2 costumes unlocked. But there are ways to get some more costumes in the game. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you the game at its base level. I'm going to show you the gameplay of what it's like when you have no skills. Then I'll show you a little bit of gameplay of one of my characters that I've actually taken through the storyline once. So I'm going to show you the game on hard mode. Because when you complete the game, you do get to carry everything you've done over into the New Game Plus. And you're able to carry all your skills and the amount of skill points you've got into the next game as well. So I'm going to show you at its base level, which is pretty important because this game it's pretty jank when you got no skills available to you. The combat system I reckon it is going to be off-putting to a few people when they first start because it doesn't feel like you have a lot to do, and it feels like you're just going to be pushing the same combo buttons at the beginning. But it does, the combat system will open up to you when you actually start buying a few skills. Sadly, this is something they don't actually tell you at the beginning of the game, but you can upgrade your character as soon as you start playing, or as soon as you start getting skill points. But that's not something they actually tell you, which is something they really should let people know. Because when I first started playing the game, I was like, wait a minute, why am I, what am I doing? Like, I'm just doing the same combos and just these same enemies over and over again. But you will be able to buy new combos and you will be able to upgrade them as you progress through the game. Which is going to be something you'll need to do because when you first start playing, the combat system it just gets really repetitive. But let me actually get breakdown of what you can actually do in the combat. These guys aren't going to attack me because this is the tutorial, so it allows me. I just picked this section so I can show you what the game's like when you have no skills, and just so I can explain the basic mechanics before I go into the hard mode. So square is going to be for your punches and kicks. These are going to be what you use to regenerate your katana attacks. And when I say regenerate your katana attacks, I mean that when you actually use a katana swing, it will decrease your katana gauge. So you can see it going down. But when you use your punch and kicks, you'll regenerate it. So you'll need to mix these up to form your combos so you don't run out of your katana attacks. If you push R1 and square, you'll be able to do sweep attacks. And these sweep attacks can lead into katana attacks. But the only downside one of the downsides to some of the attacks you'll find in this game is they have an animation lock. You can break out of this animation by rolling or by doing certain attacks. So let's take this sweep for instance. When I do this sweep, I can't use a punch out of that sweep because I am locked in the animation. I can't use a punch until I'm broken out of that animation. But I can roll to get out of that animation, or I can use a katana attack to follow up. But this is one of my gripes with this game, is the fact that your attacks and your combos don't flow smoothly into one another. It feels like they kind of pushing you to use certain attacks after previous attacks, which is pretty annoying. In games like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, a lot of your attacks are gonna flow smoothly into one another, and you'll be able to pull off some really impressive combos. While you will be able to do some combos later on in the game in this, it does feel very stiff in terms of the combos you can actually pull off. But I'll show you what kind of combos you can pull off when I start playing the game in my hard mode save. Alright, so one of the other commands you can actually do is circle. If you hold down circle, you'll be able to charge up an attack. And then when you let go of it, you'll be able to pull off a slash. But if you tap L1, or if you tap R1, you'll be able to speed up the amount of charges you can do on this move, and you'll do a more powerful version of it. And you'll notice that some of the characters, or some of the opponents, are flashing red. When you make them flash red, that means they've gone into a bleeding state. So I'm going to try and make these guys go into bleed. So at the moment they're bleeding, And you'll see that my katana, as I've been doing attacks, has been charging up and now it's starting to glow. If I push R2, it'll do a Zanshin attack and it will cause all the guys that are bleeding to take heavy damage. And it will recover my HP. So I killed those guys that were bleeding because my katana was charging up so much. And you can see my katana's gone back to normal now. So you're going to want to weave that move into some of the combos that you're doing. And you're able to pull off some pretty high damaging attacks that will recover your HP as well. Because there's not really any health pickups you'll find in the game. You're going to need to do that to recover your health. There are some enemies, when you kill them, there's a chance you'll get a bit of health. But the Zanshin attack seems to be the best way to get your health back when you're starting to run low. And as I said before, you can actually evade to get out of attacks and to break some of your animations if you are stuck in an animation after doing a certain attack. But if you tap the evade button, you will guard instead. And if you guard at the same time an enemy is going to attack you, you will just guard and you'll take no damage. And it won't reduce the amount of guards you can take before it won't reduce the amount of blocks you can do before you're thrown out of blocking. So if I have to stand there and just hold down block and enemies to keep hitting me, my guard will be broken and I'll start to take damage. But if you block at the exact same time as the enemy is going to attack you, there doesn't seem to be a limit to the amount of times you can do that. Alright, so those are pretty much the basics you can do. In terms of attacks you can do in the air, at the beginning you won't really have much you can do. It's pretty much just that slash, but you'll find that some attacks will open up to you later on. But I will say that one thing that does bug me is the fact that the camera decides which enemies it wants to focus on, rather than you being the one deciding what enemies you want to focus on, because there is no lock-on function in this game. And that does get a bit annoying, because if you move the camera to certain enemies, the camera will swing back to focus on whatever it wants, basically, or whatever's closest to you. So if there are enemies dashing towards you from behind, you won't really see them coming at you unless you have the camera turned to them. So you kind of have to try and position yourself so you have all the enemies in front of you, because the camera doesn't really help you out there at all. And later on, there are going to be some enemies that are going to be jumping at you from off the screen, and sometimes it feels like they're going to be getting cheap hits in on you. It would be nice if the camera did zoom out to show you the whole area when enemies like that are around you, but it doesn't actually do that, which it can become a problem. But I'm gonna get out of this menu. I'm gonna show you the save file that I've actually got that is in hard mode. The game does have various levels, but I'm gonna be showing you what the game is like on the same level that you just saw. But you will, as you go through the game, there are different environments, there are different enemies, loads of different enemies. It does have a bit of variety, but more of the more interesting enemies start to come up very late in the game, which is a disappointment. It would be nice if they showed up a lot earlier in the game. But when you play on the higher difficulties, you will see some of those harder enemies that were in normal difficulty showing up a lot earlier in the game. So I'd say for people that are playing this for the first time, I would say still go through the game on normal difficulty and play through it on the harder difficulty when you've seen some of the previous enemies, or when you start unlocking some of your abilities. While you can complete the game on hard mode the first time round, I reckon you'll probably want to see what it's like on normal first and then jump into hard. So you have a few upgraded abilities and stuff like that, because playing through it on the harder difficulty and trying to earn, because the harder difficulty is going to last a lot longer than normal difficulty. It's going to go on for a lot longer. You can have more enemies within waves. You will have chances to actually upgrade your character in harder difficulty as well. But I would still say just play it through on normal, then go into hard, so you understand the combat and all that kind of thing. Understand the mechanics that you'll need to use. Well, for those of you that are feeling brave, I guess you can go into hard if you want, straight off the bat, because it is available from you at the beginning. Alright, let's go. So you can see the game will have various cutscenes through it, but in terms of how long it's going to last, the game itself is going to be over in roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours. But you can see now that I've actually got launching attacks, and I can do mid-air combos into drop kicks, basically. So you will have, when you start unlocking your skills, you will have more variety to the actual combos you can do. But this is something that, so a lot of these skills are going to be something that, some of them will unlock really early, and some of them you'll need to spend quite a few points to be able to unlock a few of the chains you'll be able to do. But in terms of how much SP the skills cost early in the game, they're pretty cheap. It probably costs like 200 SP for some of the earlier skills that you have available to you. But you can see that you can, when you start unlocking skills, you can start weaving together some pretty nice combos. Just don't expect anything on the scale of Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. This game is, I guess it's a simpler version, a very simplified version that's not going to have as much depth as them, but it still has a lot of challenge in there. And the combat is still fairly fun when you're fighting some of the more challenging enemies. When you're just fighting like fodder enemies like this, it's not really too interesting at all. Because these guys, they just kind of just stand there and take hits. When you start fighting the enemies that are going to be doing certain attack patterns that you have to dodge and block or counter at the exact time they attack you, the combat system does start to shine in those moments. But when you're fighting enemies like this, it gets repetitive. But I'd say those enemies start popping up when you move on to Stage 2. That's when them enemies start popping up. For the most part, the enemies that are in Stage 1 are just going to be suit guys. Guys in different colored suits. They're going to be the extent of the enemies you're going to be fighting. But I reckon I probably will show you what some of the, I got a save on Stage 2, so I'll at least show you what the Stage 2 enemies look like as well, so you can see for yourself what I mean about those enemies. But to be honest, the challenge doesn't really come from the enemies themselves, because you'll probably be able to learn the enemies' attack patterns fairly quickly. Where the challenge comes from is the amount of these enemies they throw at you at one time. So you'll find there's going to be some enemies that are pretty big and they'll be jumping at you from like off the screen, but you have to be like fighting like 3 or 4 of them at once. That's when things get challenging and at the same time can get annoying, because sometimes it'll feel like you're getting sometimes it feels like enemies are getting cheap hits on you because they're jumping at you from where you can't see them. So it seems like you're going to have to try to keep all the enemies within your camera's view range, but that can be hard when the camera decides it wants to look at certain enemies, and when certain enemies are just standing outside of the range. I wish that you could control how far back the camera zooms, or I wish the camera would recognize the amount of enemies that are around you and zoom out automatically, and it doesn't do either of those. Alright, so let me just get rid of these guys. And then I'll show you something on I'll show you something on the next stage so you can see what I mean. But in terms of gameplay and in terms of what's going to be happening in the game and progression, all you're going to be doing throughout the game is killing waves of enemies. That's pretty much going to be it. You'll kill a wave of enemies, then you move on to the next wave, then you kill more waves of enemies, you move on to the next wave, you kill more, until you get to the stage boss. Then after the stage boss is done, then you move into the next stage, and that's pretty much going to be it until the end. But in terms of upgrading your character, you can push start at any time, and then you can go into your skills, and you can upgrade it. They don't tell you can do this at the beginning, which is something I didn't realize. They only let you know that you can actually upgrade your character after alright, let's upgrade this. Increase the amount of damage. Unlocks a follow-up attack for air jab. Oh, let's do that. Let's do that as well. Let's upgrade that. I haven't seen this follow-up attack. Yeah, they don't actually tell you that. You can do that until you die or until you're changing level. But it is something you can actually do at the beginning. So I'm going to try... alright. So now I can actually follow up air combo. Let me see if I can actually pull that off. Alright, let's try that. Let me try and get a decent combo out of there. So I'm going to jump. Let me try that one more time. I'm gonna launch. Let's see if I can. I really want to try and get this combo off. I'm gonna try and launch an enemy. Then I'm gonna follow up with a Zanshin. Then I'm gonna air combo, then drop kick. Let's see if I can do that. Not air Zanshin. Ah, didn't do it. Didn't do it. Let's see if I can get it. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. There we go. Getting hit is not what I wanted, but you get the point. That's the combo I wanted to pull off. Let me see if I can do it one more time. Guys keep sidestepping. They keep sidestepping when I actually want to do something. Alright, let's go. Let's go. You know what? Get rid of the guys that are already bleeding. And then now let's try it. I'm not going to be able to pull it off again, am I? I'm not going to be able to do it again, am I? Alright, one more time. One more time. This guy. If I can get this guy to stop moving around. Get him to stand still. Alright, yeah. It's probably going to need to work on that combo, but yeah, you get the point. Those are the kind of skills you can unlock, and when you unlock higher level versions of certain attacks, then they will unlock either follow-up attacks, like extra hits in the combo chain, or increases power, or decrease the amount of katana gauge it decreases. Those kind of things, those kind of bonuses you're going to get from it. And you're going to be able to do that as you go throughout the storyline. And the storyline is pretty basic, don't expect much from it. She's just a person, she's a schoolgirl with a sword hunting down a demon sword to save her friend from the demon sword. Don't expect much from, don't expect much from the storyline, just accept what it is. Alright, so what I will do after I kill this guy, and it'll spawn a next wave, probably. Is it? Alright, so wave 3. So spawn a new wave, and you'll see this guy with the big sword. He's someone that usually shows up much later in the game. And he's going to be one of the enemies that will resist my attacks until I bleed him. So when he's bleeding, he will be able to be juggled into the air. But when he's not bleeding, then you can't really do anything to him. So you'll find that in hard mode, you'll get some of these guys showing up earlier in the game that would usually show up a little bit later. But this guy is not, this beefcake, he's not going to take anything from me until I start bleeding him. So I'm going to see if I can get him to bleed. Alright, now I got him to bleed. Now I got him to bleed. Let me see if I can air juggle it. Let me see if I can do my air juggle combo on this guy. I should have finished that off with a Zanshin to get my health back. And we got another one of those guys spawning. But yeah, this is pretty much the game. While it is fun, it's not going to have the depth that you'll find in some of the other games, but it still has a little bit of potential to have a little bit of combo fun with, and it does have enough challenge in some of the later difficulties to make playing it has enough challenge and enough upgrading to make playing through it another time worth it. It's worth going through a second time just to upgrade your character and to unlock a few of the extra things. So I guess I should say it's got a bit of replayability to it, but just don't expect a lot from it in terms of content and in terms of depth and in terms of polish, because it is going to be a very simple game and it's just there as a little bit of mindless combo fun, but just expect it to be shallow fun. But yeah, that is Mitsurugi Kamui Hikae. I'll be making some more videos of action games and RPGs on this channel, so if you're not subscribed, then I suggest you do so. And if you know anyone that is interested in those kind of videos, then I suggest you let them know. Tell them to subscribe as well. But until I make those videos, I'll see you all later.